There are Pokemon that reach the peak of their power and stay on top of the world for a long time. But in a world with majestic mountain peaks, there will also be dark abysses. There are also creatures at the bottom of that abyss that will never see the sun, receive no attention, or don't even know they exist. It is known that each Pokemon will have its own strengths, but perhaps some Pokemon are favored with more power. Let's go deep into the ground to find the weakest ground-type Pokemon in this video. Even though I really like Torterra, I have to admit that it is not a good Pokemon. Given its turtle-like design, people will think that this is a Pokemon with good endurance. In fact, the grass and ground dual type are quite bad, unable to resist many types, and also have the fatal weakness of receiving 4 times as much damage from the ice move. The turtle's time had come when just one snowflake fell. Some ground-type Pokemon like Glizgur, Garchomp, and Landorus also took 4 times as much damage from ice moves. So why is Torterra the only one that is thought to be weak? Because of all the things it has, like abilities, stats, or types. Torterra's physical attack stat isn't terrible, but it's not as good as other offensive Pokemons either. Its defense is also fairly average, and its speed is awful. As I already said, it's resistant to a few types, and the stab combo of grass and ground types isn't effective at all against grass, bug, or flying type Pokemon. This means that it has to rely on Stone Edge, which is only 80% accurate, or Rock Climb if you are Satoshi. Torterra's abilities are just as slow as its speed. This ability only works when a Pokemon is about to be beaten, and even then it's not very useful, since grass are one of the worst types at offensive. As for Shell Armor, it only helps it not be able to blame its loss on bad luck, but only on its lack of power. Does it sound like Landorus to you if I say that your Pokemon is ground type, can't be hurt by ground moves, can set up traps, remove hazards from the field, and can switch teammates into battle? No, it can also explode. I am talking about Claydol. With all that said, Claydol does a decent job as a defensive support Pokemon, demonstrating that ground-type Pokemon are nearly always quite powerful, and that even seemingly weak Pokemon can have their uses. And in fact, this Pokemon has shown its potential in the first generations it appeared. Claydol can both resist Stealth Rock and be immune to all remaining traps thanks to its Levitate ability, making it easier to switch in to remove the entry hazards. However, as the power level of Pokemon gradually increases, Claydol's shortcomings become more and more apparent. Claydol defense stat is quite good, but the ground and psychic dual type do not neutralize each other's weaknesses, so Claydol has up to 6 weaknesses, which are common offensive types such as water, ice, dark, or ghost. It got harder for Claydol to defend himself as the Pokemon around him got faster and stronger. Like Claydol, Sandslash from Kanto shows some potential by being able to use Rapid Spin. To be honest, besides possessing this move, there's nothing else worth paying attention to. If you compare Sandslash to a Pokemon like Claydol, which has Levitate, then it makes sense that it is ranked lower. This Pokemon has a pretty low speed stat for a Pokemon with average defense, and both of its abilities rely on Sandstorms. This means that it can only be on certain teams. Since Sandslash doesn't stand in a sandstorm, it's like playing PS5 with only half a controller. It's funny that a 5th generation Pokemon that is thought to be a copy of Sandslash is better in every way. Nice. Even according to Pokédex, Excadrill can drill through steel, but Sandslash's nails can break if it digs too fast. Camerupt is another Pokemon that looks like a bulky Pokemon, but is actually as soft as butter. This Pokemon has dual types, fire and ground. Upon hearing this, you will surely immediately see that it has a fatal weakness. It takes 4x damage from the water moves. But actually, this dual type is quite good as it only has 2 weaknesses, and the combo stab attacks of the fire and ground types cover each other quite well. But Camerupt's dual type and the solid rock ability that carry this 200 kilogram donkey are the best things about it. Camerupt has a fixed weakness. It is fragile and slow, which are two things that should never be put together in the world of Pokemon. This means that it has almost no chance of using the benefits that its dual types bring. Of course, you could think about creating Trick Room to support it. But in Trick Room, there are a lot of Pokemon that are much better than Camerupt, both offensively and defensively. Surely everyone can see that there's no reason to select it for their team. This is still true even after its Mega Evolution. It can only do as much damage as a Torkoal and cannot even create the Sunlight terrain. Marowak is considered a good offensive Pokemon in Generation 2, as it can use Sword Dance, and also possesses the Thick Club item that doubles its attack power. But it has the same problems as the Camerupt above. It is fragile and slow. Unrelated to this, Marowak's anime debut, when Pikachu shocked it into unconsciousness, was very sad. Marowak has some quite good abilities, but they're not really useful for it. It has battle armor to protect itself from critical hits, but I don't think a critical hit is needed to beat Mãowak. Rockhead protects from recoil damage when using moves, but it only learns one move of that kind, Double Edge, which is not even its stab. As for the Lightning Rod, I don't know why Mãowak needs it. It might be able to draw on all electric moves to protect a water-type teammate, or keep Mãowak from getting shocked by Satoshi's Pikachu again. Even then, the special attack boosting effect is completely useless on Mãowak, as it only increases the power of Blizzard's move, and I don't understand why it can learn. Galarian Stunfisk is like another version of Cast Form, but instead of changing types based on the weather, it changes types based on the terrain on the field. It sounds pretty cool. But if we really think about it, this Pokemon has dual ground and steel type. And these dual types are better than any single type it can transform into. It's even worse when you can't control this transformation, and your opponent can make your Stunfisk change types based on the terrain they want. This takes away what is probably the only good thing about the Galarian Stunfisk, which is how many types it can resist. If you could get rid of this ability, it wouldn't make it any better, because its stats are so bad, but for some reason, it's pretty strong in Pokemon Go. It seems like every character in an action movie with a bald head is totally badass, and Dugtrio is no different. It can punish many Pokemon that dare to come in front of it with the Arena Trap ability, and with its high speed and decent physical attack, in many cases, Dugtrio rises from the ground, defeating Tyranitar or Heatran with its Earthquake move. This use makes Dugtrio useful in battle. The Pokédex says that in the Alola area, the Dugtrio dislike being bald, so they trade this power for a wig or a bunch of metal scarves. This wig was really ahead of its time because it could change Dugtrio's type to dual steel ground before other Pokemon could wear Terra hats to do that. However, it gives up Arena Trap and acquires Tangling Hair instead, which is a completely useless ability. This ability can slow down Pokemon that touch Alolan Dugtrio, which is something it never wants to happen because even though it is a ground and steel type, its HP is as low as its height and it can be knocked down instantly with one hit. He might have twisted that wig because he was having mental pain when he gave up his Arena Trap ability for it. I thought Golem was one of the coolest Pokemon in the world when I first watched the first part of the Pokemon anime series. We can only get this Pokemon by trading Graveler, so it might as well be as strong as Gengar or Alakazam. However, if you only know the basics of the type efficiency chart, the water current will quickly sweep away your hopes for Golem, just like its HP. Rock moves actually combine very well with ground moves and offense, as they can hit bug and flying type Pokemon super effectively. But when combined into a dual type for one Pokemon, it's downright bad. Sometimes you may accept it if the Pokemon can bring something valuable to your team, or is fast enough to beat the opponent first, while the dual ground and rock type has two 4X weaknesses, water and grass, and it's even worse when Golem is very slow. Since the 5th generation, no other Pokemon has had this dual type because it is so terrible. Even among all the Pokemon that have this dual type, Golem is the worst. Furthermore, Golem can only use the Rapid Spin in Generation 2 because it was a gift from the event. It would likely be ranked higher than Sandslash if it could still use this move. One catfish from Generation 9 is great at battles because it swallowed another fish, but another catfish, even though it ate a whole Master Ball, is almost forgotten. It looks like a monster from Japanese mythology, but Whiscash cannot inherit any of that monster's power as it possesses a mediocre stat, and its 3 abilities are also extremely useless to it. Even though it wasn't huge, the way it looked made me think I could defeat it with just one Grass Knot hit. Or was that its only strong point? The water and ground dual type is one of the best dual types because it only has one weakness, which is the grass type. Almost all of the Pokemon in this dual type have an advantage that makes them stand out, whether it's powerful attacks, durable defenses, healing, or acceleration in the rain. They also have another similarity. They are all stronger than Whiscash.
I am sick of all you guys ganging up on me. You guys all think you're so much better than me.
Oh, Meg, that is the least fancy thing I have ever heard.
Generation 9 brings new powers to old Pokemon, whether it's a new evolution form or an exclusive ability. And there is a joke that makes people mistakenly think Whiscash can evolve into Dondozo, but reality is always harsh. And this Pokemon's place is like the biological classification of catfish, which is bottom feeder. Wormadam is at the bottom of our list. This Pokemon trying its best proves the saying that there are no weak Pokemon, only Pokemon that don't know how to get better. Utilizing things from its surroundings, it builds a protective shell and changes into a good dual-type combination, like Ground Bug or Steel Bug. The things Wormadam did were excellent, but they weren't enough to resolve all of its problems. Compared to a fully evolved Pokemon, this Pokemon's stats are totally terrible. Even Stunfisk is better. It has 2 abilities. One is a danger warning, which is pretty useless because it's always in that state. Regarding the Overcoat ability, I don't think anyone needs a status move when facing it. One thing I'm sure of is that Wormadam is almost not on the favorite list of any Pokemon player. Most people probably don't even know it exists until I mention it here. In fact, it's likely to show up on a lot of lists of the weakest Pokemon of other types as well. Because of this, I may only talk about it once in this video. Those are also the weakest ground-type Pokemon in my opinion. Please don't take this too seriously, as this is just my point of view. There are a lot of my favorite Pokemon on this list. However, please let me know if you think there are any other Pokemon that should be on this list. Goodbye, everyone. If you liked the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe.